In this series, A New Way for a New Day, we're exploring the practices which uh, are cherished by the United Methodist Church moving forward beyond 2024. We dealt with 6 practices having to do with our life as we live with each other. And in these 3 weeks, and this is the final of 3 weeks, looking at 3 practices of relating to others rather than just each other. For the church is more than being together, it's serving others. In relationship to the not yet church, we explored neighboring, um, refusing to wear blinders, becoming aware of those in the ditch, alone and hurting. We're programmed people that need to cherish the experience of being interrupted. That's what neighboring is all about. Then we looked at the practice of welcoming in relationship to others. Rather than being on the front porch, welcoming is a living room relationship. Welcoming requires us to sit and make room for others, even our enemies and those who, because of their identity, might threaten us, or we might be threatened by outward appearances and lifestyle choices. But welcoming removes any sense of separation. This week, we're going a step further. We're going to the kitchen table, where we not only share food, but we share our lives with each other. I was introduced to the practice of this practice in Angola. One particular event among many really comes to mind. It had to do with the fact that I was in Angola, where a church was growing, doubling in size every 3 or 4 years. And it was all about the practice of including. It was more than neighboring. They noticed people in the ditch. It was more than welcoming, sitting with them and removing fences, but it was a sense of including. I went to this church on a weekday and was introduced to the director of what I would call a daycare center. The director was a mother. I asked if one of the children in daycare was her own, assuming that that probably was the case, and she responded no. Her child used to be a part of the daycare, but then she told me her story of why her child wasn't in the daycare now. She was a single mother because of the death of her husband. Accidental, tragic death. She had no family. He had no family. She had no money. She heard about the daycare at that church not too far from where she lived on the street. She brought her child, and her child was welcomed. But there was more. After a few weeks, she was so overwhelmed the way the church was helping her be a mother. She decided to start attending church. It wasn't long before she was baptized and became a part of that church. But becoming a part of the congregation meant that she needed to find another way to care for her child because the daycare wasn't for the children of members. Oh, I was getting a hunch that maybe that was the reason why the church in Angola was doubling in size and the church that I loved in the United States was shrinking in size. I was so taken by her story. There was a waiting list of children needing care. And when she became a church member, she had to provide another place for her family, her child to receive care, making room for other children. So finally, I said to her in awe and wonder, "Who are these children?" She paused and she spoke the words in Portuguese that were translated to me in English. "These children are the not yet church." You see, the church that practices including is willing to make sacrifices for others, strangers that they've never met. Why? Because this practice, including, says the church exists for others, not for each other, not to serve themselves. Now, this is agape love in full bloom, isn't it? Empathetic and sacrificial love. This is what it means to be at the kitchen table together. This is what the table of including looks like. No head table, no first servings for members and leftovers for others, no innies and outies at the table together. You see, the table is a symbol of the practice of including. The connectional table in the United Methodist Church is the heart of governance of the United Methodist Church moving forward, and everyone is welcome at the table. One of the most exciting local congregations which Karen and I have had the privilege of visiting is named the Table. The table represents the consequence of neighboring, the consequence of welcoming. Noticing others from the front porch is planting the seed. Welcoming others in the living room is watering the seeds of agape love to take root. But including is being at the table together, sharing and being willing to sacrifice and make room for others, the not yet church. Now I want to refer again to a hymn. These hymns I've chosen these last 3 weeks are all out of the faith we sing. They're all relatively new. But listen to this hymn, 2225, entitled, "Who is my mother? Who is my brother?" All those who gather round Jesus Christ, spirit-blown people, born from the gospel, sit at the table round Jesus Christ. Differently abled, differently labeled, widen the church round Jesus Christ. Crutches and stigmas, cultures, enigmas, all come together round Jesus Christ. Love will relate us, color or status can't segregate us round Jesus Christ. Family failings, human derailings, All are accepted round Jesus Christ, bound by one vision, met for one mission. We claim each other round Jesus Christ. Here's my mother, here's my brother, kindred in spirit through Jesus Christ. Spirit-blown people, born from the gospel, sit at the table round Jesus Christ. That captures the practice of inclusion like no other words I have ever found. See, it's not a coincidence that on the night before Jesus died, he gathered his followers, the disciples, not in a temple where he could stand to preach, teach, and proclaim, but the Last Supper was at the table, a gathered community, including those who would betray and deny. At the table, the disciples experienced the breaking of bread, the sharing of wine, representing the life of the Rabbi Jesus, who revealed divine love by his willingness to not only live for others, but die for others, that they might see and be invited to the new day, where the people of God are marked by the life of agape love, not for themselves, but always for others. That is the practice of including, sacrificing for others. And I'm convinced that if persons are uncomfortable with existing for others, they're going to be uneasy in the United Methodist Church. For our new day is living for others, not ourselves. For that's what the practice of including is all about. For your thought and conversation, what are your personal stories of the practice of including in the faith community? And what are the illustrations of front porch and living room experiences with others that never move to the kitchen table? Thank you for joining us in our journey of digging deeper into the United Methodist Church 2024 and beyond.